The old Richfield Psychiatric Hospital was scheduled for demolition in 3 days. For nearly 70 years, its tall stone walls had loomed over the nearby town like a mausoleum, swallowing thousands of broken minds and giving back almost nothing. Eric had been part of the cleanup crew for 2 weeks now, hauling rusted gurneys and mold-eaten files out into dumpsters. Most of the rooms were empty, haunted only by peeling paint and the occasional rat, until he found the patient's log. It was buried beneath a collapsed cabinet in the administrative office. The leather was stiff and water-stained, pages curling and stuck together. But on the very last page, written in faded black ink, was a name. Eric frowned. Active? He muttered. No one was supposed to be here anymore. The hospital had been shut down, officially in the 90s, and power was cut off years ago. Still, curiosity tugged at him. Room 306 was on the third floor of the West Wing, technically off limits due to structural concerns. But the door wasn't locked. The hallway was colder than the rest, the air somehow heavier. Eric's boots echoed unnaturally as he approached the room. The plaque on the door had rusted to almost nothing, but the number was still legible. 306. He pushed the door open. The room was clean, untouched by the decay of the rest of the building. The single hospital bed had crisp white sheets. An IV pole stood in the corner, and next to it, a chair facing the window. The window itself had been bricked over from the outside, yet pale light still filtered in. And in the chair sat a person. No, not a person, something shaped like one. It or she had skin so pale it bordered on translucent, like wet paper. Her eyes were closed, lips stitched shut with black thread. Head tilted as if asleep, long black hair spilled down the back of her faded hospital gown. Eric stood frozen in the doorway. She didn't move. "Hello?" he said. Still nothing. He checked for breathing. Her chest rose, barely perceptible, and fell again in slow, unnatural rhythm. She was alive. "Jesus Christ!" He fumbled for his radio. "Hey Barry, this is Eric. You copy?" A burst of static. Then, "Yeah, go ahead." "I found someone, a woman, alive, room 306. Long pause. Then Barry replied, "That's not funny, man. I'm not joking. Get up here now." As he waited, Eric looked around the room. There were drawings taped to the wall, hundreds of them, each one scribbled in black crayon, a figure always the same. A woman with hollow eyes standing beside a hospital bed, sometimes smiling, sometimes holding something in her hand, something hard to define. The sound of movement made Eric spin. The woman had shifted slightly, her head now tilted just a few degrees higher. Her stitched lips trembled faintly, as if trying to speak. Then her eyes opened. They were pure white, not clouded, not blind, just empty. Eric stumbled back. His hand brushed one of the drawings. It fluttered to the ground, landing face up. This one was different. It showed him a man in a yellow vest, standing in the doorway. Behind him, the woman, now standing, reaching. The light dimmed. The room grew colder. Eric turned. The chair was empty. She was behind him. He screamed as her hand touched the back of his neck. Her fingers were eyes. He dropped the radio and tried to run, but his limbs moved like they were underwater. The world seemed to pulse around him. Reality bent. And then everything went black. They found him the next day. Eric was curled up in the corner of room 306, eyes wide open, lips stitched shut with coarse black thread. Still breathing, still warm, but completely unresponsive. The patient's file was gone, the drawings too. Barry never spoke about what he saw. The demolition crew refused to touch the west wing. The site manager had the floors sealed off with concrete. The hospital was demolished 2 weeks later, except for one room, room 306, remained. No one could explain it. No equipment would work near it. No tool would break its walls. Even fire would not spread to its door. They eventually built a medical complex over the ruins. But no matter how many blueprints were drawn, no matter how many they remeasured the space, there was always one extra room in the plans, windowless, soundless, labeled only as 306. Do not open.
Tommy was 7 when he first heard the whispers. It started on a Sunday night after his parents tucked him into bed in the small farmhouse they'd just moved into. The ceiling fan spun lazily, the moonlight casting long shadows through the window. As he lay beneath the quilt, eyes wide open, he heard it. Soft murmurs coming from under the bed. "Tommy, come play. Tommy, don't be scared." The voice was barely audible, like the wind rustling dry leaves. Yet it was clear. Tommy pulled the blankets over his head. "No," he whispered. "I'm not scared." His mother's voice floated from the hallway. "Tommy, everything okay?" He didn't answer. The whisper stopped. The next night, the voice was louder. "Tommy, come here." Curiosity wrestled with fear. He peeked under the bed. Nothing but just bunnies and old toys. He grinned. "Just my imagination." But the whispers didn't stop. They got more persistent. "Tommy, play with me." One night, his parents heard it too. "Do you hear that?" his mother asked, glancing nervously at his father. "It's probably just the house settling," his father said, though his voice was tight. But the next night, Tommy's mother came rushing into his room. "Tommy, get out of bed now." She knelt beside him, eyes wide with terror. "Did you see something?" He shook his head. "Just voices." His father sat beside the bed, pulling the quilt up. "No more whispers, okay? You are safe." But Tommy wasn't safe. The whispers began to shape into words. "Look under the bed. Don't be afraid. Come with me." One night, Tommy felt a cold hand brush his ankle. He screamed. His parents rushed in. The room was empty. They searched everywhere. No sign of an intruder. One evening, Tommy's mother stayed in the room with him. She pulled the covers tight. Suddenly, a voice whispered right by her ear, "Help me." She spun around. Nothing. "Tommy, who's there?" she asked. "No one," he whispered. Days passed. Tommy's parents grew desperate. They called in a local priest who performed the blessing. The house felt light for a few hours, but that night the whispers came back, louder and angrier. "Get out! Get out! Get out!" Tommy buried his head beneath the pillow. Then the whispering stopped. Silence. The kind of silence that presses on your chest. Tommy waited, heart pounding. From beneath the bed, a single, slow, deliberate crawl began. Wood creaked, the bed frame shook. Then a pale hand appeared, dragging itself into view. Skin like worn parchment, long nails curling like claws. The hand grasps the edge of the bed, then the arm, then a twisted face, eyes black as tar, mouth stretched into a jagged grin. Tommy froze. The creature stared at him, then it spoke. "You are mine now." His parents heard the scream. They burst into the room, but the bed was empty. No sign of Tommy. Only the whispers lingered, growing faint, carried away by the night wind. Come play. Weeks later, the farmhouse stood empty. Locals whispered about the boy who vanished. Some said he ran away, others said something took him. But if you listen closely on quiet nights, you can still hear it, the whispers calling from under the bed.
Samantha lived alone in a third floor apartment that still smelled faintly of old smoke and lemon scented cleaner. Her only furniture of note was an antique mirror, nearly 7 feet tall, that stood in the hallway. It had belonged to her grandmother, passed down like a curse. The mirror was beautiful, wood framed, with intricate carvings of twisted vines and owl like faces. It had no visible damage, but something about the glass always seemed too still, like the reflection didn't quite keep pace with reality. It started subtly. At first, Samantha noticed the mirror blinking when she dimmed. A tiny delay, half a second. Once, she was brushing her teeth, and the reflection smiled before she did. Sleep deprived, she muttered, just tired. But it got worse. One night, after a long shift, she walked past the mirror, and her reflection didn't move at all. It just stood there, frozen, eyes locked on hers while her body continued toward the kitchen. She turned, goosebumps rising. The reflection followed her now, moving normally again, but the delay had been real. She was sure of it. She covered the mirror with a sheet. For a while, things returned to normal. No movement, no chills. But 3 nights later, she heard something drag across the hallway floor. A soft shuffle, like cloth sliding over wood. The sheet was on the floor in the morning. She told herself it slipped off. Mirrors were sleek. It could happen. She put it back on, taped it this time. The next night, she woke to a loud knock, not at the door, but from inside the hallway. 3 slow, deliberate thuds. She opened the bedroom door. The sheet was gone. The mirror was uncovered, and in it, her reflection stood, but not like her, not matching her pose. This version of herself had eyes wider than possible, lips curled into a grin like something out of a painting. The reflection slowly raised one hand and pointed at her, but Samantha hadn't moved. She slammed the door shut, locked it. She didn't sleep. The next day, Samantha visited an antique dealer. She brought photos of the mirror, hoping to sell it or at least get answers. The old man frowned when he saw it. "Where did you get this?" "My grandmother's." "Why?" He leaned closer to the photo. "That's a watcher's glass," he said quietly. "A what?" "There are mirrors that reflect light," he said, "and mirrors that reflect something else. The ones like yours were used in old European mourning rituals, covered when someone died, because it was believed that if the mirror stayed uncovered, something from the other side could come through." "Come through what?" He looked up at her, serious. "Through you." She didn't ask more. She went home and immediately taped thick black garbage bags over the glass. Then she shoved the whole mirror into the closet. That night, was quiet. The next one wasn't. At 2:47 a.m., she woke to a sound she hadn't heard in years. Her grandmother's voice, faint, muffled, but unmistakable, coming from the closet. Sammy, come help me, sweetie. I'm stuck. Samantha sat frozen in bed. Her heart beat so loud she could hear it over the voice. I know you are there, the voice said again, but this time it wasn't warm. It was flat, hollow, imitating. She didn't answer, didn't move. The voice kept calling for 10 minutes, then stopped. The silence afterward was worse. At dawn, she cracked open the closet. The bags were still in place, but behind the plastic, something tapped from the other side of the mirror. She called a junk removal service that morning. When the two men came to haul the mirror away, she didn't tell them anything, just said she was done with old things. They wrapped it in blankets, loaded it onto the truck, and left. For the first time in weeks, she felt peace. Until 2:47 a.m., a knock at the door, not gentle, not polite, four hard, fast knocks. She froze. Another knock. She peered through the peephole. Nothing, no one. She opened the door. No one in the hall, but resting right outside the doorway was the mirror. No blanket, no cape, no junk truck, just sitting there like it had walked home on its own. Her reflection smiled from behind the glass, not malicious, just expectant, like it was waiting. That was a week ago. The mirror now stands in her bedroom. She tried to throw it out. It came back. She smashed it once. It was whole the next morning. She hasn't slept in 3 days. Every time she blinks, the reflection moves closer. Last night, it touched the inside of the glass. Tonight, it mouthed something she couldn't hear. And just now, just seconds ago, Samantha turned around to face the mirror, but the reflection is gone. Only empty glass, no face, no body, just behind her now, breathing.